Now, 5 years after Britain officially left the EU, the two sides are set to seal a deal to renew some of those broken ties. They're now set to sign new deals on fishing rights, defence and freer movement for young people, including easier access to British universities for European students. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is welcoming the EU President Ursula von der Leyen in London today for that first summit since Brexit. We're going to talk more about this now with Jannike Wachowiak from UK in a Changing Europe. She joins me live from London. Thanks for taking the time to speak to us. This is the first high-level post-Brexit summit between the UK and EU. First of all, what prompted this summit to happen now in the first place?
So the summit is part of the Labour Party's ambition to reset relations with the European Union. There was an informal meeting between Keir Starmer and Ursula von der Leyen last year, at which the two sides decided to hold the first formal post-Brexit summit between the two sides, which is taking place today, and which both sides consider to be a milestone for the relationship.
Now, there are several new deals that are meant to be signed off on at some point today. What for you, from what we know so far, are the most important changes that could be coming?
So I think security and defence will be at the heart of the summit. The expectation is that the two sides will be able to announce some concrete outcomes in this area. This will include a geopolitical statement highlighting areas of joint interest, such as their support or their ongoing support for Ukraine. And then there will be a security and defence partnership as well. On trade and mobility issues, there will be a roadmap outlining areas for further talk. For example, trade in agri-food products, youth mobility and emissions trading. So those are areas where further talks will be required after the summit. So whilst the summit is an important milestone, it's also part of a longer process of negotiations that will continue beyond the summit itself.
How committed would you say are both the EU and the UK to actually following through on all of this?
So the two sides have been clear that they want to pursue deeper ties. At the same time, I would say they are both still being cautious when it comes to this relationship. On the UK side, you still have similar red lines to the ones you had under previous Conservative governments, including a no to the single market, a no to the customs union, and a no to freedom of movement. On the EU side, similarly, you still have concern about British attempts of cherry picking. There is a caution or anxiety of not wanting to create a precedent for the United Kingdom where other third countries like Switzerland or Norway could then complain that this upsets the balance of rights and obligations for third countries. So whilst it is a first step towards deepening the relationship, I think there is still caution on both sides, and the ambition for the summit is modest at best.
Indeed. And it even seems like the actual summit itself is more of a low-key affair being held at Downing Street. Would you agree?
Yes, I think the summit is a low-key affair in the sense that you don't have member states present, you have the EU institutions present, but at the same time, that's not unusual for an EU summit with a third country. The EU holds summits with other key partners all the time, and that's usually at the level of the EU institutions. So I wouldn't read too much into that. But at the same time, I think there's also recognition on both sides that the summit is only the start of a longer process, and they know that there will be more difficult and technical talks to come down the line.
Jannike, just to wrap up, what would you say is the general feeling of people in the UK 5 years post-Brexit? Do most people still think it was the right move?
I think in general, a majority of people in the United Kingdom think that Brexit has been more of a failure than a success. And a majority of people are in favor of closer ties with the European Union. But that doesn't mean that people necessarily want to see another referendum. People are frankly sick and tired of Brexit as a topic. They don't really want to hear about it any longer. So whilst there is support for closer relations, there is still people who think that Brexit itself wasn't necessarily a bad idea, but so the people who voted to leave merely think that the government implemented it badly. So yeah, still very nuanced views, but overall, I would say there is support for a closer relationship, also given the changed geopolitical environment we find ourselves in.
All right, Jannike, thanks for that. Jannike Wachowiak from UK in a Changing Europe. Thank you.